Welcome to Knife Chats. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share it with friends, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Thank you. A few people have asked me to show off my Rough Ryder collection, and I mentioned that that would be a video well over an hour long because of how many Rough Riders I have. What people don't understand is I've been collecting Rough Riders since they came in these boxes, and this is probably 10 or so years ago when they were using this style of box. It's just a simple flat box with the knife in it. This is for our 237, so that would have been back around 2002 or so. And I don't even know how many people are even familiar with this box, but it's been a while since I've seen one. More people are familiar with the blue denim one, and some people haven't even seen this box. But these are the boxes that most of my Rough Riders showed up in. The flat box that's kind of a tan color, and then the blue denim Rough Rider box, long before the days of RYDER. I also mentioned I've actually put all my Rough Rider videos. If I do a Rough Rider knife video, I add it to the watch list called Rough Rider, so you can always go to the Rough Rider watch list and see all of the Rough Rider knives that I've reviewed so far. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do very brief Rough Rider videos on particular things. So today it's going to be my white smooth bone Rough Rider knives, which comprise about half of all of my white smooth bone knives. Now the first Rough Rider and white smooth bone that I picked up is right here. It was the Marlin spike knife, and it made perfect sense to me because, scrimshaw and everything else, ivory, whaling and everything else, what better than a Marlin spike knife for a white smooth bone? And I got it. I really liked the way it looked, and so I decided I needed to get more white smooth bone knives. And the Marlin spike knife here is just fantastic. One of the things I really like about it is that it has a double back spring here, that both tools operate off of both springs, but because it's got those two springs, the spring is less likely to break, and you've got decent tension, but not too strong of tension on both the Marlin spike and the sheepfoot blade. So it's a really cool knife, and yeah, it is a locking Marlin spike using the old shackle up here. So that was the very first one I picked up. Let's move on to a couple others. Now I think what's here are the ones that I have that have a single blade. Might have another one in here somewhere with a single blade. I'll find out. In any case, we'll start with the biggie here, which is the folding hunter, single blade folding hunter, about 5.5 inches long, I think, somewhere around there, maybe 5.25 inches closed. Really big blade. I think the overall length of this thing when it's all open is about 10 inches. I've done a video on this already, where you can see my back pocket knife video, and this knife is featured in there. Really big, really nice, 448 stainless steel. Got a nice thumbprint there. And a whole lot of white smooth bone going on it. And feels great in the hand too. You can actually get up there like that too. Anyway, there's my first of the biggies, and then move over here, and we've got the toad sticker. This was a later one made. This was very early. It came in one of these boxes. This was made later as one of 3 toad stickers, which have that really long slender blade, very pointy, and as this is one of the later ones, it actually has the number printed on it. What is that, 1202? Yeah, so somewhere around 2011 to 2013 this one came out. I'm not sure if this one has its pattern number on there or not. Oops. There we go. Let's just knock everything everywhere. Yeah, no pattern number, if you can see there. So that's because it was an earlier one, and a lot of the early ones do not have a pattern number because I think this actually came out in 2010, but it was a second release in 2010. These were made even before the this box was used. Next up is the 1035, the Granddaddy Barlow, and this one was made sometime between 2009 and 2012 or so, somewhere in that area. Notice it has a half stop, so it is not something new with them. They were doing it with other knives too. I believe the Big Daddy Barlow was first in the Colt lineup, and then they moved it over into the Rough Ryder lineup. RR 1035 there, but Colt was still around when the Big Daddy Barlows came out. Really nice knife, wonderful swedge on the top. I've got a couple other the Big Daddy Barlows and other things like the saw cut bone and stuff. Definitely they need to do more of the Big Daddy Barlows, but here we have it in white smooth bone. And the cool thing is you've got the Rough Ryder stamping into the bolster and no shield, which is exactly the way I love to see my Barlows, with nothing on that handle and just the stamping in the bolster. Next up is the lady's leg knife, a large lady's leg knife. I do not have the small lady's leg knife yet. I've got it in tortoiseshell. I do not like leg knives. I actually hate leg knives. I guess they've grown on me a little bit, but not too much. It's got a nice blade on it, though, 4 inches long, or about 3 3/4 inches long or so. Let's see, what do we got there? 4 inches, close to 4 inches long. Got the nice saber grind going on. You can actually get up onto that blade too. The boot acts as a bottle opener. The only reason I got this thing, though, is because they do not make a large toothpick in white smooth bone, which aggravates the crap out of me. I would much rather have a large toothpick in white smooth bone than a lady's leg knife. But anyway, that's why I have it, because they don't have a large toothpick. I do have a white smooth bone large toothpick, but it's by Bear & Son. And then we have the tiny toothpick, the 3-inch toothpick. And again, white smooth bone. And I've done a video on how effective these little white these little toothpicks can be, and they're actually not that bad for a little fifth pocket knife or watch pocket knife, whatever way you want to call it. So I think that's all for the single bladed knives. Nope, I just perused the collection, and I do have one more, and this was actually the second of my white smooth bone knives that I picked up, and the person selling it called it the El Diablo lockback. Rough Ryder just calls it the 3-inch lockback, but it is a really cool looking knife. You can see that right there. Got the little finger choil, fits nice in the hand. And I think I have done a video on this knife too. It's one of my favorite little lockbacks. I don't know how I missed it when I was looking at all the other singles. Probably because of how small it is. So you got a 3-inch handle and a blade that is about 2 1/4, 2.5 inches, something like that. And the little 3-inch lockback, but it's got some definite style to it. This is one of my favorites. Definitely one of my favorites. Okay, let's clear away the single blades and bring in some 2-bladed white smooth bone knives. Now, technically, I guess the Marlin Spike knife is a 2-blade knife, but it's one on the top and one on the bottom. I actually have 2 in white smooth bone. One of them is my Mermaid of Warsaw knife. There should be a video out there on that one. If not, it'll be showing up pretty soon. So we'll move on from the Marlin Spike knives and look at all the other knives. Oh, and I also missed the hawkbill or the pruner or the carpet knife, whatever you want to call it, which is actually a single blade knife, 4 inches with a 3-inch blade. So that was the last of my single blade knives, the hawkbill. And as you can tell, it also has a half stop going on with it. Pretty wicked knife. Now let's move into the 2-blade knives. And we'll start over here with the white smooth bone standard trapper, the most popular knife in the world, which is kind of interesting because it was not in the Rough Ryder white smooth bone line for the longest time. They do not have a standard trapper in white smooth bone. Not sure why. They had a mini trapper in white smooth bone before they had the standard trapper in white smooth bone. It seemed to take forever for them to have this knife show up. Not sure why or anything else. I think it probably showed up about 6-7 years ago. It may have been around earlier and disappeared, but as far as I know, it just wasn't there, you know. And it's your basic standard trapper. So you've got your clip blade and your long spay blade. And you notice the Rough Ryder horseshoe shields. And not a bad knife for a trapper. Interesting enough, when they were first advertising this in their on their online catalog, they were actually using a photo of the Frost standard trapper. I knew that because the Frost one does not have a ringed bolster, and the Rough Ryder one does. And actually, I had a Frost standard trapper in my white smooth bone collection first, simply because Rough Ryder did not have a white smooth bone standard trapper. Moving on, we'll move to the next knife, which is also a trapper. And this is one of their more recent knives, the Equestrian Trapper. You can tell it's a recent one because it's got the slant R bolster, and you got the pinched bolster down here at the end. Still, it's got a ring. You've got a clip blade, and now it has a half stop. And you notice there, hopefully you can see that, that is the double Rough Ryder R's, but this blade is marked Rough Ryder RIDER, and the hoof blade, the hoof pick blade, is Rough Ryder RYDER. I did a video on this knife already too. Actually, I did a video on hoof pick knives, and this one is in there. In any case, white smooth bone, the Equestrian Trapper. Moving over, we have the Muskrat. So you've got the two Muskrat blades, or California clip blades, or what else? There's several names they call that clip blade, but in any case, I've always called it a Cali clip or a California clip, and it's, you know, white smooth bone. And then we have the Copperhead. Really nice Copperhead, actually. We've got the long skinning blade up front, which looks like a California clip blade also, and then a standard clip blade in the backside with the Copperhead handle. And that one is 3 3/4 inches long in the closed position with the two blades. You can refer to it as a Skinner or a Cali clip, or the standard clip blade. And it's an older one, so it does not have a half stop. Next up, we have the Mini Trapper. Like I said, that was around before the standard trapper was around, and as such, it just rocks around, and you've got your two blades, your spay blade in the back and a clip blade up front, just like you would in a regular trapper, except it's built on a 3.5-inch frame. And finally, the wee little Peanut. And I like the way Rough Ryder does its peanuts. It's got the clip blade up front, and then it has the pin blade in the back, and so you turn it over and you can open the pin blade. Everything, as you notice here, have match striker pulls. All of the Rough Ryder white smooth bone knives that I know of have a match striker pull. Now up front you see 4 different Barlows. All of them began life at one time or another as a white smooth bone Rough Ryder Barlow. I used to have a white smooth bone Barlow, but I gave it to somebody else because well, they collected Barlows and I thought they needed a Rough Ryder Barlow, so I sent them the white smooth bone one because all of the other Rough Ryder Barlows have a shield in the handle similar to this one. Now this is an aftermarket one that somebody made, but it was pretty cool with the coal miner shield. But it is otherwise your standard Rough Ryder Barlow, which has the rounded bolsters. I wish it was squared off. And then I have 3 Halloween Barlows, and that's because there were issues. Let's see, which one was it? Yeah. So this was the first one I got. I ordered one through Smoky Mountain Knife Works, and they sent it to me, and it does not have the blade edge. Someone had made some without a blade edge. They sent them out, and they said, well, keep that one. We'll send you one with a blade edge. They ran out of the ones with the blade edge. They missed my order completely, so they sent me the prototype, which has the design of the headless horseman on both sides. Notice that you got and it's slightly different. The 2 of them are slightly different. Either that or they were planning on putting it like that, having it on both. Oh no, it's the bottom here. Notice the bottom. This one just has a line. This one is completely blacked in. But it does have the blade edge that was supposed to be there. And then after doing that, I found somebody selling them online, and so I bought one that was supposed to be as it was in the factory. And cost me like $3 more than the one I would have picked up from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. So that's why I've got 3 of the Halloween Barlows. Just lucky, I guess. Of course, I still need to go and grab well, I'm not going to grab another white smooth bone Barlow because I have 2 other white smooth bone Barlows by another company. Okay, I'm going to clear all of these out and bring in a couple more of the 2-bladed white smooth bone knives. Now, so far we've been looking at 2-bladed knives that were basically jackknives where the blades open, both blades open at the same end. Now we're looking at the ones that are more or less pen knives, the ones that have blades opening from both ends. That's an Americanism for the differences between the knives. A penknife will have blades opening from both ends. A jackknife has the blades opening from a single end or the top. So I only got 5 up here, and that's the end of my 2-bladed knives. This first one is the elephant toenail. That's what they called it, and it is the unequal-ended sunfish. So notice one end is larger than the other, with the top being the larger end, and they refer to this, Rough Ryder refers to this as their elephant toenail. And you got a really big fat spear blade here, and then on the bottom end you have a really fat pin blade, if you want to call that a pin blade. Again, as you notice, like all of the other knives, it has a single ring on the nickel silver bolster, and you've got the brass liners and in this case double back springs and your match striker pulls. And then you have the standard sunfish, which is actually one of the bigger ones. It's 4 1/4 inches long, 4 1/4 inches long, and you've got again the old big spear blade, and notice this is one of the early ones that has the Rough Ryder always ready blade edge. They dispensed with it, and I don't know when they got rid of it, but they got rid of it. And it also uses the Rough Ryder signature as opposed to the horseshoe shield. This is one of them that definitely came in the early box. And then you have the pin blade on the other side. Now, a lot of people complain about these because the blades do not rock around too well, but that's because basically the size of the blades versus the springs that are being used, and it is a common problem with sunfish. I run into the same problem with sunfish from other companies too, including some relatively expensive sunfish. And then we got the baby sunfish, and if you think this one opens awkwardly, this one is even worse. Knife is only 3 inches long. Yeah, 3 inches long, and the handle of the knife is 1 inch wide. Again, with the always ready Rough Ryder match striker pull, and then the wee little pin blade on the other end there. And then we go to, I really do like these. I need to get more sunfish. The good thing, you see a lot of people doing scrimshaw work on the sunfish, especially the elephant toenail, if they can find them, because if you've got a really big surface to work with, so you can really put a lot of design on it. The elephant toenail is really getting tricky to find, though. This one here, the large sunfish, or the standard sunfish, is a little easier to find, but this is the one you can normally find, which has about 2 inches of surface, 2 by 1 inch surface to work with. I should probably find somebody who could put my Knife Chats with Tobias logo on there. That would be kind of cool. And next we have your standard canoe, 3 5/8 inches long, again in white smooth bone. So you have your pen blade on one end and the Spearmaster blade on the other. Because this does not have a shield on it, and it's an equal end canoe knife, the only way you know which side is the front is the large spear blade would be the front blade on the knife. So this is the front side of the knife, and this is the back side of the knife with the pin blade, or the smaller spear blade, whatever way you want to call it. But there's the canoe, and then finally the mini canoe, which they call it a mini canoe. Case calls it the butterbean. Take your choice, call it whatever you want to. Again, match striker pull. 2 3/4 inches long overall, and you've got the pin blade and the spear blade, and this one I believe does have the pattern number on it. Yeah, RR055. So this was not the first production run of it. It was probably a second or third run of it, but it still has the horseshoe shield on it. But there you have the mini canoe, the canoe, the baby sunfish, the sunfish, and the elephant toenail. Let's move on to 3-bladed white smooth bone. Undoubtedly, my 3-blade knives are kind of lacking when it comes to the Rough Ryder knives. I do have other Stockmans and such, and Whittlers in white smooth bone. I just do not have them by Rough Ryder at the moment. I do need to get the Rough Ryder white smooth bone Whittler though. In any case, here is a 2 3/4 inch Stockman, or a small Stockman, baby Stockman, whatever you want to call it. It's patterned off of the Stockman that Camillus used to make, and it's really kind of nice. You've got a clip blade, a sheepfoot blade, and then a small pin blade here. And the knife itself is actually smaller than the Peanut, 2 7/8 inch for the peanut, 2 3/4 inches for this wee little stockman, and you got an extra blade on it. Takes up about as much pocket space as the peanut too, because both of them have 2 layers. So let's go from the smallest to the largest, and here we have the 4-inch or large stockman, the rounded ended one. I think they have one in a square end too. I have to look for it though. Clip blade again. Notice match striker pull. All of these have brass liners, brass pins, and the single ring bolsters. That's typical of all of the Rough Ryder white smooth bone knives. Then we got the sheep foot blade, and finally a spade blade on the back side here. And the last of my 3-blade knives by Rough Ryder is the sow belly. And this was probably the 3rd or 4th one that I picked up. And as you can tell, the earlier knives tended to have a much better bone than the newer ones. This is one of the newer ones that I picked up, and you can see the difference. This one, I guess people would say, has a lot more character to it. This one, to me, has a much better finish to it. Any case, with it, you have the clip blade. Notice the Rough Ryder signature there instead of the horseshoe. And spade blade, I'm sorry, sheep foot blade, and finally the spade blade over here on the other end. Got a really good angle on that spade blade, and that's why the sow belly is the way the sow belly is. And a lot of people like the sow belly. I think it is probably one of my favorite of the stockman family, the sow belly stockman, the large fat serpentine stockman. Any case, there we have the last of the 3 blades, and the only 3-blade Rough Ryders that I have in white smooth bone. I need to remedy that, like I mentioned. Let's move from 3 blades into 4 blades. Who am I kidding? Rough Ryder does not make a 4-bladed white smooth bone knife, which is a pity, because I wish they did. And so what I did is I took one of their camp knives that was in red bone, and I removed the red bone handles, and I put on my own white smooth bone handles on a scout frame. So I have a old style can opener there, the long screwdriver cap lifter blade, a punch blade, and then finally a Spearmaster blade on my own white smooth bone camp knife. But it's not by Rough Ryder. Rough Ryder does not make this. I wish they did, but they don't. I also wish they still made a white smooth bone large toothpick or a white smooth bone medium toothpick, but they don't make those. And that's why I have to go beyond Rough Ryder to find other white smooth bone knives. I wish they made every knife in their inventory in white smooth bone, but they don't do that. Any case, there are all of my white smooth bone knives by Rough Ryder. Thank you for visiting Knife Chats. I hope you enjoyed your time here. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel and ringing that notification bell so that you will be notified when the next episode of Knife Chats is up online. Thanks again. See you soon.